just so that I don't, and that's, yes, Dave is here. Well, we are in quorum territory, so if you would like,
sure. Excuse me.
And I don't know how much or how little you are able to say, given you're not in your normal place, but. And I think Kent is recovering from surgery, and I believe Tom was going to have a slight delay. Floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us at the March 1st Missisquoi Basin Water Quality Council. I'm really glad you all can make it. So today we're gonna hopefully try to make this a shorter meeting than normal. Thanks for organizing that, Dean. And we can go ahead and get started with introductions. I know we all know each other, but just for the record, Lauren Weston, Franklin County Natural Resources Conservation District Manager and Chair of the DEC, voting member, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm going to pass it to Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Lindsay White. I'm the director of the Missisquoi River Basin Association, vice chair of the DEC, and she, her.
And Dan.
I'm Dan Seeley, just representing Richford.
Stan Barry.
Barry Lamke, Northwest Regional Planning Commission.
Tucker.
Hey, Tucker Malone, Vermont Land Trust. I'm the alternate for Alaire, so subbing in today.
So David.
Yeah, David Allerton, the Director of Public Works and Town Engineer in St. Albans Town.
Sarah.
Sarah Downs, a representative from Enosburg.
Beth.
Beth Torpy, NBDA.
Ellen.
Fox. Oh, sorry. There we go. Ellen Fox, she, her. I'm the alternate from the Missisquoi River Basin Association.
Thanks, Ellen. Karen.
Karen Bates, Agency of Natural Resources Watershed Planner.
Dea.
I am Dea. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm CRISP staff.
And Dean.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Dean Pierce, NRPC and QUISP staff, he, him.
And now we can move on to their just reviewing the Zoom protocols, which I think we're all familiar with at this point. Just a reminder, remember to raise your hand if you want to speak, and I'll read your name off when we vote, and try to avoid multitasking. Thanks. Just now, we can now go ahead and review the agenda and adjust and approve as needed. Dean.
Is the agenda coming through?
It is not.
Okay, hold on a sec. Sorry about that. Can people see that now?
We can still just see the slide that says agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Yes, now we can. So I'll give everybody a moment to review that. And please let us know if you have any additions or changes. All right, seeing none. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion to approve. This is Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any seconds?
Second, this is Beth.
Thank you, Beth. All in favor, please raise your hand. I see Barry, Beth, Lindsay, Tucker, Dan, David, Sarah, and myself. All right, thanks, everybody. So with that, we will review the minutes of our last meeting. Dean, can you scroll to the next?
Oops, sorry, yes, I'm gonna get it. Okay, I'm gonna pull up the minutes momentarily. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We have literally all of them there, so no worries. Awesome. Yes, if you can make it a little bigger, but we do see it. Thank you.
Having previously reviewed these, I will motion to accept them. This is Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay. Do I hear a second? Oh, Dea said the year is wrong. It is, you're right. So do I hear a motion to approve with that change to make it 2023?
So moved. This is Lindsay.
Okay. And Barry is abstaining because he was not present at that meeting. Thank you, Barry. So given that, do I hear a second for that motion? Oh. Noted, Barry. So we, thank you. We actually need to correct the list as Barry was not even at the meeting, so he needs to be removed from the list as well. Yeah, that will also not be voting. Thank you, Barry. So with those changes, I'm going to assume Lindsay will first motion that, and do I hear a second motion to that?
I'll second that, Sarah Downs.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, all those abstaining is Barry. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. I see Lindsay, Dan, David, Sarah, myself, and Tucker. Tucker, I don't know if you actually get to vote because you weren't there either, but we'll say the motion passes with the quorum. So thank you. Wonderful. Thanks all. Any public comment not related to items on the agenda? Seeing none, we will continue. All right, seating of any new representatives or alternates if required. Dean, I'm not aware of anything. Are you?
No. At this time.
All right, then we will.
Right along. If I could just interject, I believe that there is a change in the representation of the Orleans Conservation District, but neither one of those folks is here, but that will be noted next time when there's a rep.
Yes, it's a great point. Thank you for that. All right. Now I will kindly turn it over to Dean for how to relate to the online application form.
Thank you, Lauren. As you know, this is going to be a shorter meeting because the group will be discussing the possibility of holding a special meeting at which you will consider an initial list of projects and initial prioritization. But since the deadline for submitting applications is next week, it seemed like a good idea to provide people with another opportunity to learn about the application form that's online. And I'm going to do essentially a live demo of that in just a moment. But before I'm actually sharing the form, I wanted to just draw attention to the page on the NRPC website where you can find links to the application, call for application, for the online application form, and for a PDF version of the questions. So if you would like to see all the questions in advance, you can use that printout essentially and make notes before you actually submit the application form. That printed out version is a single file that has the questions for both project types. So if you were to click that link, the first several pages are the questions for assessment and ID type projects. And then the later pages are the questions that are part of the design and implementation questions. Something else I wanted people to be aware of is that since the launch or since the announcement of the call for applications, I've received questions, and it's probably not fair to call them frequently asked questions, but it seemed like a good idea to compile the questions as they've come in and put the answers so that they would be in one place. And people may want to look at this list of questions and answers before they reach out. They're also free to do that, but just to get an idea of what some of the issues that have come up so far during the application are. Yes.
Dean, can you put the link to that in the chat box so we can go along with it?
Sure. Whoa. I'm having a.
Thank you.
Okay, my computer's just gone blank, so let me just see here. Okay, so you are hoping to have the link for the, I'm gonna try to get back to this page.
Daya put it in there already, so we're all set. Thanks, team. And
Thank you.
Yes, the computer's a little bit snarly. So the Regional Planning Commission's website is nrpcvt.com. And if I can get my computer screen to stop flashing, I'm gonna just stop share for a second. Try this again. So I'm back at the screen I was at a minute ago. This is the overall. Oh. Sorry, folks. Try this one more time. Okay, I'm hoping it will work this time. So there's a frequently asked questions page. That URL, I believe Daya has put in the chat. you would be able to get to the application form by clicking the link that is here, and I'm hoping everybody can see that. There are 2 different basins and 2 different calls for application, so just be sure that you click the application form for the basin that you are interested in. Okay. Oh. Are people still seeing my share screen? Okay.
Yes, we see the application form.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to just show you the process. It's pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to walk through it. If you start with the form, it's going to ask you for your name and your organization and your email. That information is required. We are also asking people to put in a phone number. That's not required, but you can plug in a phone number as well. We then ask for a description of the project. We do need a description of the project. It's certainly possible that the description you would use is the same one that is included in the watershed project database for your project. But after you've entered the description, we just have a basic question to confirm eligibility, that it's your understanding that the project that you are applying for is an eligible project type. We then ask you to get a bit more specific about the project type. So just for this purposes of this example, I've put in project development, but there are many to choose from. So choose the project type. And then it goes on, and the next question that it asks is for a project ID. It provides you with a link to the database if you need to go back to the database to get the number, and also has a link if you do not yet have a ID number, and you can fill out a form to start the process of getting one. I've just plugged in the make-believe number of 15,000. And I've also plugged in fake numbers for the latitude and longitude. We're starting to collect some information about the location. That's also something that may be, excuse me, in the watershed project database for your project. We next ask for information about the cost, and we do that in a couple of stages. We asked for you to give us the number for the phase of the project that is the subject of the application. And so since this is put this in as a project development project, I just plugged in the fake number of 10,000. It's also the amount that's being requested. Not much mystery there. No match funds. So that's a 0, but it's conceivable in some cases, and we will track that, but it's not likely to be the case since match is not required. The next question is one that bears a little bit of emphasis, and that is, we would like some idea of what the total cost of the project might be. And I do understand, and we've covered this before, that it's going to be a best guess, but what do you think the total project cost would be? So it's going to be what you're asking for, plus what you think will be the cost for the remainder of the project to get it done. And so I'm just throwing in the total project costs, $30,000. That would be 10,000 plus 20,000 additional. It's not going to be held against you, but it's a number that we will use in some calculations and tracking and so on. If there aren't any questions at the moment, then I'm just going to continue by saying this is where the form will adapt depending on the type of project that you are doing. And if you are doing an assessment or ID project and you put that in, then it's going to take you down one application path. And if you put in the other types, it will take you down a different path. And that's why back on the website, the link to the questions has 2 sets, because you would have different sets of questions depending on your project. If it's an assessment ID type project, it's I'll say a less quantitative, it's more qualitative. And then it's more quantitative if you're doing a project that is design and implementation. So we ask questions that I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain. The first one is a question that's meant to ferret out projects where there's the need for a little bit more work to get it to the point where you would be asking for serious money. So the question is, does the application help advance a previously studied project that lacks adequate assessment of resource impacts or other development work? Because we want to be able, as a QUISP, to direct funds to those types of projects. And so if your answer is yes, it's going to put it in one basket of those projects that are almost but not quite ready to go into the serious competition. And those will get scored separately. Then we ask, does the application propose in a specific way how cost-effective the potential solutions would be? And we're asking this question because we want to see applications that do pay close attention to this idea of cost effectiveness. And that's because as part of the mandate that QUISPs have, we're being asked to direct funds to projects in a cost-effective way. So I think in most cases, applicants are going to say that they are, because they want to be able to get the points. They want to be able to say that, yes, they're looking at it. But that means also that when you are conceiving of your project, that part of your project needs to involve a look at cost effectiveness. It's not something that you can simply say that, yes, we're going to do it and leave it in the form, but never do it again. It is something that you will need to make part of your project. The next question has to do with basically how many project ideas that you are going to come up with. Now, in most cases, it's going to be one, but we wanted to consider the possibility that some projects might be for things like stormwater master plans or other types of studies where you could have multiple project ideas come from them. And to say that that project costs $20,000 and would yield one project is not the same as saying it's $20,000 and it could yield 5 projects. We understand it may not be, you may not know with certainty what the number will be, but we wanted to give some opportunity for people to show that it's a chunk of money, but it may yield more than one project. We then go on to the question about, will the project consider design life? This is similar to the question about cost effectiveness. We have another question that asks something similar about operation and maintenance. It's basically saying that as we study problems and come up with problem solutions, that as part of identifying the right problem solution, we should be thinking about its cost effectiveness, its design life, and its operation and maintenance costs. And then the last question is having to do with a tactical basin plan and whether or not the project is identified or would it implement any part of the tactical basin plan. And I see you have a hand up, Lauren, so I'm happy to stop for a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious about those 3 kind of additions about cost effectiveness and design life and operation maintenance costs. Will that be included in like our contracts with you? Also, like when we go to, if it's approved, like exactly what you're looking for in there, or like how you want us to approach that?
I would certainly have a preference to see it listed so that we know it's there. That it would be, it won't be something that's specifically a contract element if it's part of the scope of work. There wouldn't really be any need to do it. But it is the sort of thing that I would expect over time, these will be included in people's scope of work. And maybe it's a single paragraph that says that you will address these things. These things will be considered as part of the project.
Okay, so they should be included in our original scope of work. They won't be included as like an addendum in the contract with you. Will there like be a requirement for them in the final reports that we submit?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, you're not having to do them as part of the application. And the agreement that funds the project, I don't believe, I mean, I hadn't contemplated making it a contract condition, but I would expect that when the product is delivered, since you said that you were going to look at these things, that it would. And I think the most explicit way to do it is to make it part of your scope so that it's in there as early as possible. But we're not, yeah. Does that answer?
It does. I guess this is just like the first thing that's new from past project, from past like block grants. So this is only going to be like people might miss. I guess that's how I'll phrase that.
So this is the last question in this set has to do with co-benefits, and basically this is the place where you look at your project and you, as part of the application, say how many of the following categories will your project address, and if it's one, you put one, and if it's yes, first, will it be addressing these things, yes or no, and then how many of those will it get? It's basically a number, and I'm just stopping for a second to think about something. I'm afraid that I think that this yes, no is was retained and it doesn't need to be. But the real important number, the thing that's required is how many of these? Is it none? Is it one? Is it two? Is it three? Is it four? Is it five? Is it six of the co-benefit areas that your project will accommodate? Now, I had said the two types of projects, the project phase of the application, this is a new, basically the same information, but if we were doing a different type of project, let's say we're doing an implementation project, then the list of questions that follows is a bit different. That is not news, but we have for these later stage projects the need for some numbers, and those numbers relate to phosphorus reduction. As people on the council have heard before, we are to use phosphorus calculations or calculators that DEC has developed. So we have a link to the tool. That tool has different pieces to it. In some types of projects, it will actually take you to an online tool. But anyway, for later stage projects, you have to come up with a number. And so the first thing we do is to provide you with links to the places for tools to help you calculate those. So we would basically ask you to put in, if it's 2 kilograms a year, the number is going to be 2. If it's 20, the number is going to be 20, and so on. Some small subset of projects may have a one-time phosphorus reduction. Just have it there in case that's the case. We also move beyond phosphorus reduction. And I'll just pause for a second because I got a question earlier today from someone who's talking about a design project where it still is a bit challenging to know what that number will be. And I understand that, but the expectation is that there will, we need some number to start the conversation about the order of magnitude of phosphorus reduction. So it will mean that sometimes applicants will have to noodle with numbers a bit if they don't have an estimate already. And by noodling with numbers, I mean things like, okay, I'm going to assume my project is this big, and so on. Don't see any hands at the moment. The next question has to do with design life. How many years? You plug that in. We ask a question having to do with estimated annual operations and maintenance costs. And I realize this too is a moving target. This is that category that at one time when we were discussing the calculation of rankings or prioritization that it is going to get low weight because of how mushy the numbers can be. So in any event, just as it may require an applicant to make some big assumptions about the project in order to come up with a phosphorus reduction, you may do the same thing. And it may be as basic as, okay, I'm going to need this amount of material for a project to, a certain amount of gravel added every year, and 2 times you multiply the amount times the cost times the number of times you do something, and you add the number of times you visit the site, and so on. These are not numbers that we're going to be holding against you, but we're going to ask for, and in time, there will be more standardization of these things. I'll talk a little bit about how later, I'll talk about how DEC is doing a lot of work in this area and building a database, and there will at some point be more standardization. But for now, we're just asking you to do what you can in terms of estimating O&M cost. Tactical basin plan, 10 points, 5 points, 0 points. We've talked about this before. Then environmental co-benefits, similar to what we were talking about before. How many of those categories are included? Oops, my screen is not cooperating. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully it's back. Okay, and then we had a discussion at a previous meeting about the screening form. The screening form is something that we are to use. You must have the screening form if you're seeking funds for preliminary design, final design, or implementation. We tell you where you can get a copy of the form, and you will fill it out in different ways depending on your project. And we ask you to submit by filling it out and uploading it using the link. So this box here, which I'm hoping everybody can see, we have a section of the application where we say, please upload these files, and you can upload them by dragging them to this box, or you can click the files link and then go to the place on your computer where you have those files stored, and then you can upload them. You can upload up to 10 files using this mechanism. And then just as a check to make sure that you uploaded the things that you think, we just ask you to go through and say, okay, did you include this? Yes, I did. Did you include that? Yes, I did. And sometimes you may say, no, I don't have to, and that's fine. But we just wanted to make it more likely that the things that you intend to upload are in fact uploaded. So screening tool, phosphorus calculator tool. If you are doing a project that is one where you use the online calculator, this is something that I think I have intended to put on the questions and answers, and I'm not sure that I did. Just do a screenshot of the online tool and then upload the screenshot from the online tool. If that's a question or a problem for you, let me know. The last files that we asked you to upload are the budget, a map, and the schedule. And then when you have done all of those things and confirmed that you've uploaded, just hit submit. That's a lot of information. And as I think most of you know, I'm happy to do one-on-ones. I have time available Friday afternoon, and that would be the last opportunity for anybody in this basin to do one of those. If you're also in the Lamoille Basin, we would have time next Friday. I just will quickly say to people what happens with this information. I just wanted it to be understood that numbers get plugged into your forms, but they go into a database. That database starts to compile the information. One of the things that I'm hoping happens is that I can produce information about applications very, very quickly. And so I've started to create a dashboard. And so this is something that if all goes according to plan, there will be a simple dashboard that you can look at, and you will see the number of applications filed, what is, how much phosphorus on average did they propose to be reduced, and so on. So this is just going to be, I'm hoping, an overall view of different types of all the different types of applications that we get and what the numbers are associated with them. It's information that doesn't directly bear on you, but it seems like something some people may be interested in, and it will be available for both basins. This is still just a prototype, but I wanted you to know that that's where some of the information that goes into the spreadsheet or the database be extracted. And of course, that those numbers will also be used in the prioritization process. That's all I was going to say about application forms and in terms of the walkthrough. And if there aren't questions, then we can carry on. And if there are, I would be happy to try to answer them.
I'm not seeing any.
Okay.
So thanks, Steve,
All right.
for going through that.
Okay. So if I may, then the next topic for the group is to discuss when there might be a next meeting. And thanks to you who have filled out the doodle poll, based on the results that I had as of this morning, some of the contending days were March 22nd. Then coming up on the heels of that, March 15, March 29, and you can see, but the question is, does the group want to have a special meeting? In other words, one sooner than 2 months from now to consider the prioritization of the projects that are submitted by next Monday. And when should it, if it does want to do that, when should it?
So I'll just say, I think I was one of the main ones who couldn't attend on the 22nd. I'm happy to not be there if Lindsay is willing to take the lead. My biggest issue with the dates that were provided was that most of them were Wednesdays, and I just seem to have very booked Wednesdays in March.
Would we be making decisions, kind of final decisions at this meeting, or is this likely a two-step process?
I think it depends, but I think my hope would be, and this is based and maybe biased by what I've seen happen in one other basin where there was a list of projects given the opportunity for the council to vote that same day, but it could be staged. But I am also just, I'm aware of the desire of some applicants to move forward if they can.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for a stage or a delay.
As far as Wednesdays versus other days, I was using the doodle poll in hopes that it would be helpful in settling on a date, but if the group, since the group is meeting today, can come up with a different day of the week that works. I know that Wednesdays work better for me than some other days, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be possible to schedule on a Thursday or a Tuesday. But those days were problematic, and I was hoping that if there were enough Wednesdays, then it might work for folks. But we can look at, I'm hoping that people have ways to get to their calendars on Thursday, March 23rd, as an example. That's the same day as the Lamoille group. That's between 9 and 11. But if there was a desire to meet between 11 and I'll say 2, that could work. Similarly, the following week on the 30th could work.
Why don't we take a quick poll of, did you say 11 to 2 on Thursday, the 23rd?
I'm saying, yeah, well, sometime in between, or maybe 11:30, since it could be difficult to wrap up Lamoille. So maybe a cushion. So let's say between noon and 2, and then maybe even possibly noon and 2:30 on the Thursday, the 23rd. On Thursday, the 30th, it's actually a pretty open day for me, and I probably should have included it. But if the group can do Thursday, the 30th, between whatever hours it would like, these hours on Thursday, the 30th could work.
I'll say I like the 23rd. I don't know how other people feel about it.
Is there anybody that can't make the 23rd between 12 and 2?
Sarah, you
Okay.
can't.
Okay. What about the 30th? Same time frame.
I cannot.
Could you meet in the morning on the 30th?
We're hosting an outdoor event that day in the afternoon. So probably
Okay,
not.
okay, so the 30th is not good.
Sorry.
Do we want to move the discussion to Tuesdays, or Tuesday's a good day? Tuesday mornings are not good for me generally, but what are Tuesdays like for folks?
Tuesday the 14th would work for me in the morning.
What about the 21st?
That's the Vermont Ag Water Quality Partnership annual meeting, so I will not be available then. I'm sorry, you guys. My calendar is stupid right now. If you guys just want to pick a time that works best for you, and Lindsay can run it, that works for me. My March is pretty much full.
Yeah, my March is not great either.
If I'm the only one who can't make it that day, I can make it to start with, but then I have a commitment at 1:15. on the 23rd, and I could be there for part of it.
And I may be similar. The 23rd is not ideal, but I could at least be there for a chunk of it.
So Thursday, the 23rd, sounds like helpful to start as early as possible. So say 11:30. So 11:30 to 1:30. I'm seeing a lot of nodding and thumbs up. All right. Okay. Okay. Very good. Great. Well, I will get that out then. Thank you all for making that possible. And with that done, the next topic that I wanted to cover is I'll get this in a moment. Updates on a few different items, and if it's okay, then I will just quickly head to that. Some things that seemed important to mention, and I'm hoping people can see, regarding compensation of WIC reps and alternates, something that I believe I have shared is the policy that the commission is working with that guides us on this. And when I say policy, it's the Regional Planning Commission as the QUISP's policy. It's our intention to be more generous than the minimum requirements of the rule. We want to make it clear that alternates will be eligible for compensation, even if they don't vote, because heretofore it's been understood that a council alternate would get compensation if they were there in a voting capacity, and we're opening the door. If alternates attend the meeting, then that's going to make them eligible. And that's it's the sort of thing. I know Jake emailed me just before this meeting to say he could not attend. I'm guessing SAP is running, but if Jake were here, he's an alternate, he could be compensated even as an alternate. So that's just one development. We called it changes afoot, something that I wanted people to be aware of. I wanted to give an update. Yes.
Just for a clarification, that doesn't include those of us whose jobs include this, right? So like, for example, my job includes, well, it doesn't specifically include Basin 6. My job really only includes Basin 17, but would those of us who are employed by the Regional Planning Commission still receive that $100?
So we start this compensation with the question, are you able to get this money anyplace else effectively? Because we're not looking for people to be getting the compensation for attendance from two places. So if you are getting compensation to attend the meeting from some other source, then we wouldn't want to be compensating you a second time.
So my work plan includes attending these meetings, so I would not be eligible for compensation because that would be double dipping, right?
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, that's a really important question. And the way I would describe it is that we're trying to fill the gap. If someone is participating and their time isn't being compensated, we don't want we want to fill the gap. And so if for some reason you were to continue to be the rep for regional planning commissions, but let's say you left your job or you went to a part-time basis or what have you, you could still be the rep, but you could say legitimately, I'm not getting paid to attend these. Then you might move from a I'm double dipping to an I'm not double dipping situation. Okay.
Dean, I've got a
All right.
question on that too. So let's say someone, so right now, tactical basin planning is not funding alternates to attend. So if Katie were to be attending these meetings and I was also here, would she
Yeah.
additionally get the $100? And then is this going to be true across Wix? That not
So-
just your hosting, do you know?
So it's not something other BWQs are doing, to my knowledge. I mean, the NRPC BWQs we're going to handle consistently. We don't know if other BWQs are doing it, or other QUISPs are doing it, I should say. And then as far as alternates for, so some categories of reps are in this contract situation where the organization, but if the organization's contract doesn't include alternates, then we would see them as being eligible. I understand, and this is getting into, you know, the weeds for some, that might change as part of these contracts between DEC and those organizations, but it might not. But until it does change, then those alternates would be eligible. Okay. There aren't other questions, and then keeping in mind of time, this is a busy slide. The thing I wanted to just highlight, having to do with the pre-qualification of partners and subcontractors. We're still working on it. We have gone through the process to the point where we know that there are 13 partner organizations across 2 basins that are going to be, that are pre-qualified, 18 contractors across those 2 basins. We are going to be offering what we call a master agreement to partners and contractors. They're slightly different. So a different contract or a different master agreement for partners than the one for contractors. And it's undergoing legal review because it's so different from the one that we have used in the past. And bottom line is that we're doing this as soon as possible. So I just wanted people to know, because I think some of the applicants may be hearing, or, you know, you're working with consultants already, and those consultants may be wondering, like, how is this going to come into play, and will the timing work? And yes, we're believing that the timing will work. But unfortunately, I can't say that it's been taken care of. I'd hope that it had been taken care of by now. Then I think the last 2 things I was going to touch on in these closing minutes having to do with DEC guidance and emerging work on operations and maintenance. I had talked about some of the just lack of information having to do with operations and maintenance. The bullet points are the CWIP funding policy was signed in December, and we've had discussions. There was a period of time where people could submit comments, and then there's a document. As a result of those comments, there's a document that has been posted online. It's the URL is here, and put that in the chat. But DEC has written this document to clarify the policy in response to those comments. So I just wanted, if you are kind of a funding policy guru or someone who really is into that, you can find out more there. The next piece of information is that comments on Chapter 6, which is the project eligibility screening and prioritization chapter, that chapter is out for comment, and those comments are due March 16, and I'm pretty sure I had shared a link to that previously, and if you don't know where to find it, let me know if it's something that you want to comment on. And then I'm going to close this slide by just saying how operation and maintenance is an active area. There's been an O&M committee that has worked and met, provided information to DEC staff. That staff has created an outline. The committee kind of went on a hiatus as there were some staffing changes, but it's moving again, active again. But O&M will be part of its own chapter of guidance. It's called Chapter 7. It's in preparation. It covers a lot of important material. One thing for people to understand is that along with all of this funding for projects comes the expectations that the projects will be operated and maintained so that they live their full life and continue to do what we expect them to do in terms of phosphorus benefits and other benefits. That means there will be different roles. There will be people that own a project or own the property. There will be maintainers, the people that maintain them, and they might not be the same, but then they might. But then that raises the question, if maintainers are compensated, could a property owner be compensated if the property owner maintains? And it's still an open question, but I can tell you it's a question that's getting discussion and consideration. But there's work on roles, and because of the importance of these different roles and understanding the distinction, in the first year, even though money for operations and maintenance will be available, a lot of the focus is going to be on training. And that's something that we will be hearing more about in coming weeks and months. But if you have specific questions about O&M, let me know. You could ask things here, but also feel free to follow up. If there are no immediate questions, then last thing yeah, Lauren.
Sorry, this isn't exactly related to this, but just thinking about the timing of things. I know we never really settled on what our next round will be. Just so this is something, we don't need to discuss it today, but it's something we should probably talk about at the next meeting.
That can definitely be an agenda item at this next meeting that we've just scheduled, is after the group has discussed the current round and when do you want to do it again. And that too was something that happened at the Basin 5, not that that dictates anything, but that meeting, I believe, resulted in the decision that there will be another round soon. And I think the same could happen. Okay, so if I've taken care of the operation and maintenance discussion, I just wanted to come back to the topic of the public engagement policy and committee. As a reminder, when the group was just getting started, there was a very basic public involvement policy that was created. It was adopted as an interim policy. The committee has prepared an expanded policy, and that policy is something that is getting some review by Catherine Dimitrick, the chair, or the director of the Regional Planning Commission, and it's been taking longer than we had hoped. But I was talking with her again this morning about this, and her feeling is that we could look to have this resolved by the next regular meeting. So not the meeting that we just scheduled, but by the next meeting that is the regular meeting, this could be resolved. And it all comes down to the fact that there are some aspects of the public participation policy that overlap with rules of the Regional Planning Commission and the QISP, and she just would like to have a clearer understanding about how those will break down. And I do see that we've been joined by Kent, and I don't know if anyone else has joined during the meeting, and I don't know, Dea, if you were able to see them when they arrived, but if anybody else has joined the meeting since the beginning and we didn't catch it, please let me know. I see Tom is here too, so he's joined and maybe he has questions, but that was all I had. If there are no other questions, then we can be done, and then I will see everybody in a couple of weeks.
And just so you know, we did schedule another interim meeting to look at the applications on the 23rd. Dean will be sending out a invite for that, but just so you know, that's our tentative plan.
All right, and I really apologize for coming in late. You'll notice I'm not wearing glasses.
Yes.
I do notice
And
that.
I just had my second cataract surgery, and I don't know why I got held up there so long. I thought I'd be here in plenty of time today. Could I ask one question before we conclude? This goes back to voting on applications at the Basin 5 meeting. And I was informed that since my watershed or our watershed group had made applications, were participating, that we would not be allowed by the conflict of interest policy, we would not be allowed to vote. Now, since we are working in this watershed and hope to be bringing more projects, can I pretty much assume that that will be a permanent situation where watershed groups such as ours that will be providing applications, will we pretty much be precluded from voting in all meetings? Will we be considered to be a competitor and not be allowed to vote in any of the upcoming application sessions?
I'm happy to jump in. I don't want to preempt you, Lauren, if you had anything that you know. So a couple of things, and I'm mindful of time. I'm not sure I have settled on the interpretation that was given at the Basin 5 meeting, that that even if the applications are voted on individually, that because you're a competitor, so-called, that you couldn't vote. I have not, I guess I'll answer your question by saying, I'm not there yet. And I don't know if that does enough for you, Kent, but just to carry this forward a little bit, if there's a single vote on a list, then that does make things problematic. But if the list is broken into individual votes on projects, and the interpretation that was made at Basin 5 holds, it still means there's a problem with counting votes. And I would rather do it once than having to do it with multiple times and multiple applications. But that's a long-winded addition to my basic point, is that I'm not feeling that I see the interpretation the same way, but I have not done any more work on it since that meeting. But it's getting to the top of the list. I think the first issue for the group to be thinking about when the agenda for the meeting on the 23rd is put up, we need to have some preliminary discussion about voting and how will it be done? How does the BWQ want to do it? And then what are the issues that are raised by voting on a list versus voting individually?
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that explanation, and really appreciate a chance for the Basin 6 group to work together in advance of the actual voting. Thanks very much, Dean.
Yeah, Dean, if I could just expand just for 30 seconds on that. And in a sense, it almost felt like anybody within the council that will be bringing projects to the table really can't vote on any projects. It's almost what it felt like. I know I took it to the extreme, but it almost felt like Friends of Northern Lake Champlain will never be able to vote on a project again. And I'm probably extreme on that.
Well, sometimes it's helpful to be extreme to make the point. So I'm not bothered by that. But again, my basic position in your role as a staff person, or as a staff person who's here to try to help the group, is that I don't necessarily reach the same conclusion. It doesn't mean I couldn't, but I haven't reached it yet. And we'll be spending more time working on this. It does seem to make that interpretation does seem to make the system break down even more than the rather wonky conflict of interest provisions already do.
Yeah, so my recollection is that we kind of all got to the point of the conflict of interest interpretation that you couldn't vote on your own project, but that you could vote on others. And I think we came to that after much deliberation. And so I think that my memory serves that we would not do a list, that we would do individual projects so that we would actually have enough people to vote.
The other place that this ultimately will become a potential issue is when there are seriously limited dollars and you are truly competing for limited dollars. At the outset, doesn't appear to be the case, but when things get tight, then it may be an issue.
Very good. Well, thank you. Lauren, back to you if you would like to bring us across the finish line.
I would love to, and thanks for the question, Kent. Glad your eyes are working like you want them to be, I guess is how I'll phrase that. Thanks everybody for coming today. I think we could probably take a motion to adjourn at this point. And keep an eye out on your calendars for an invite from Dean. So if I hear a motion to adjourn, I will then ask first again.
So moved.
All right, Beth motions to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second it.
Thanks, Sarah. Any abstaining? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. See Barry, Lindsay, Dan, Sarah, Kent, Tucker, Beth, and Lauren. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
Good luck
Take
on your
care.
applications.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.